Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 86a. Top of the page with the words Tani Tana Kamed Rav Sheshes. A Tana who recited Mishnayot and Braitot in the study hall recited that Braita, where the Tana holds that one is liable for abducting another and selling him to the abductee's father. So Tana was recited before Rav Sheshet. Amar le, ani shona Rabbi Shimon Omer, me'echav at sheser me'reshusechav, ve'at amar chayav tani pater. Rav Sheshet said to him, I teach that Rabbi Shimon says, from the term of his brethren it is derived, that there is no liability unless he removes the abductee from the domain of his brethren. And you say that one who sells the abductee to his father is liable? And men the Braita and teach said that he is exempt. My kushya. Dilma Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. The Gemara asks, what is the difficulty raised by Rav Sheshet? Perhaps that statement that he cited is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, while this Braita is the opinion of the rabbis who disagree with him. Hello, Sogadaytech. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan Stam Masnisan Rabbi Meir Stam Tesefta Rabbi Nechemia Stam Sifra Rabbi Yehuda Stam Sifri Rabbi Shimon Bechulu Ali ben Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara responds, that should never enter your mind, as the unattributed brisa that was cited is a passage from the halachic midrash on the books of Numbers and Deuteronomy, entitled Sifrei. And Rabbi Yochanan says an unattributed Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir. An unattributed Braita in the Tosefta is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia. And an unattributed Braita in the Sifra, the halachic midrash in the book of Leviticus, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And an unattributed Braita in the Sifrei is in accordance with Rabbi Shimon. The Sifrei and all of these are in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Kiva, as all the sages mentioned here were his disciples. Therefore, it is unlikely that an unattributed Braita from the Sifrei would run counter to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. My time with the Rabbanan. The Mishnah teaches that there is a dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis with regard to the liability of one who abducts his son. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for the opinion of the rabbis who deem him exempt? Abaye said it is derived from the verse that states, if a man shall be found abducting a person of his brethren, Deuteronomy 24:7, to exclude one who is already found in the custody of the abductor before the abduction, since the son is already in the custody of his father, the father is not liable for abducting him. Amar le Rav Abaye Elamiata ki matzei shochevim isha baras baal beulas baal achanami ki matzei prat lematzoi kagoid Shovitz pleni tshkhigan gevayu achinami depatir. Abaye said to Rav Papa, Omerle, Ana mi nimtza biado ka'amina. Abaye said to skipped a line. Rav Papa said to Abaye, if that is so, then the verse, if a man shall be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die. Deuteronomy 22:22 may also be interpreted if a man shall be found to exclude one who was already found. So too, would one say that adulterers are exempt from liability if they commit adultery in, for example, the house of so-and-so, where married women are commonly found, and they have a pre-existing reputation for licentiousness? Amarle, Ana mi vinimta biyado kamina. Abai said to her papa, the rabbi's opinion is derived from the phrase, or if he is found in his possession, he shall be put to death. Exodus 21:16. From which I am saying by my inference that it is derived if he found to the exclusion of one who was already found. Amarava hilkach hani makrit daridiki umasnurabanan between yadon damu upitiri. Rava said, therefore, with regard to those teachers of children and those who recite Mishnayot, the Torah scholars, the status of their students is as though they are found in their possession, and the teachers are exempt from liability for abducting them. Ganav mi shemichetzio hule tanan hasam Rabbi Yehuda oimer ein lavodim boishes. The Mishnah teaches that there is a dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis with regard to liability if one abducted one who is half slave, half free man. We learned in the Mishnah there, Bava Kama 87a, that Rabbi Yehuda says there is no indemnity for the humiliation of a slave, since he is not a full-fledged Jew. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Kra ki nazu anashim yachtov ish v'achiv. Mi shesh lo yachvo, yotzevet shein lo yachvo. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for the opinion of Yehuda? It is derived from the verse that states, when men struggled together, a man and his brother, and the wife of the one drew near to deliver her husband from the hand of one who smites him, extended her hand and grabbed his parts, his man parts, grabbed his manhood, and grabbed his genitals. Deuteronomy 25:11. This is the source of liability to pay restitution for humiliating one another. From the term his brother, it is derived that one who has brotherhood, meaning who is halakhically related to his biological family, receives payment for humiliation. A slave is excluded as he has no brotherhood. He is not halakhically related to his family. And what is the reason for the rabbis? They hold that although the slave has no family ties, he is the brother of the assailant with regard to the fulfillment of mitzvot, as a Canaanite slave is obligated to fulfill the same mitzvot that a woman is obligated to fulfill. The Gemara asks, and here, with regard to abduction, how does Rabbi Yehuda interpret the verses and arrive at the conclusion that one is liable for abducting one who is half slave, half free man? Shouldn't the term from his brethren render exempt from liability one who abducts a slave? The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the term in the verse from his brethren, Deuteronomy 24:7, serves to exclude from liability one who abducts slaves. Had the verse continued, the children of Israel, the phrase would have been interpreted to exclude from liability one who abducts one who is half slave, half freeman. Since the verse states from the children of Israel, the prefix letter mem, meaning from, indicates that there are some from the children of Israel for whose abduction one is liable, and there are some for whose abduction one is exempt. The prefix also serves to exclude from liability one who abducts one who is half slave, half freeman. Therefore, this is an example of a restriction following a restriction, and there is a hermeneutical principle that a restriction following a restriction serves only to amplify the halacha and to include in the category of those who are liable one who abducts one who is half slave, half freeman. Rabbanan, me'achav lepaki avodim, lo mashmelu, di'avu mitzvot ben Yisrael, chad l'mute eved, chad l'mute mi shechetzi eved, chetzi v'chayrin. And the rabbis who deem one who abducts one who is half slave, half freeman exempt, how do they interpret the verse? They do not exclude slaves based on the term from his brethren, as the slave is the brother of the abductor with regard to the fulfillment of mitzvot. Concerning the expression of children of Israel, and the more expanded expression from the children of Israel, one serves to exclude from liability one who abducts slaves, as the slave is not a full-fledged Jew, and one who serves to exclude from liability one who abducts one who is half slave, half free man. Azar l'goynev nefesh minayin, Rabbi Yehoshua Amar mi lo tignov. Rabbi Yochanan Amar mi lo yimachru yimachras eved. Mi lo pligi marka choshiv lav ligneva o marka choshiv lav limechio. The Gemara asks, from where is a prohibition against abducting a person derived? Rabbi Yehoshua says that it is derived from the verse, "You shall not steal," Exodus 20, verse 13. Rabbi Yochanan says that it is derived from the verse, "They shall not be sold as slaves," Leviticus 25:42. The Gemara comments, and they do not disagree. Each requires both verses to derive the prohibition. One sage, Rabbi Yehoshua, enumerates the prohibition against abduction, and one sage, Rabbi Yochanan, enumerates the prohibition against selling the abductee into slavery. Tanu Rabbanon, lo isignoif, begoin nefashos akas medaber. Ata oimer begoin nefashos, oy eino ela begoin mamon. Amart seilo mabish lo teschem yidois chetan intereses behem, davar hamelamid beinyano. Bameh hakasuv medaber, benefashos afkam nefashos. The sages taught in Brayta, "You shall not steal," Exodus 20:13, and this is with regard to one who abducts people that the verse is speaking. Do you say that the verse is speaking with regard to one who abducts people, or perhaps the verse is speaking only with regard to one who steals property? You say, "Go out and learn from one of the 13 hermeneutical principles a matter derived from its context." With regard to what context are the adjacent prohibitions? You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery. In the verse is speaking, they are speaking with regard to capital cases. So too, the prohibition is speaking with regard to a capital case of abduction. Davar halamed me'inyano. Tani yidach lo tignoivu. Begoin nevmamon akas medaber. Ata omer begoin nevmamon, o eino ela begoin nefashos. Amart seilo mamish 13 midos. Davar halamed me'inyano, bameh akas medaber b'mamon. Afkan b'mamon. It is taught in the rise that you shall not steal, Leviticus 19:11, and it is with regard to one who steals property that the verse is speaking. Do you say that the verse is speaking with regard to one who steals property, or perhaps the verse is speaking only with regard to one who abducts people? You say, "Go out and learn from one of the 13 hermeneutical principles, a matter derived from its context." With regard to what context is the subsequent verse, "You shall neither exploit your neighbor nor rob him," Leviticus 19:13. What is it speaking about? It's speaking with regard to property. So to here, the verse is speaking with regard to property. Okay. Itmar, it was stated, it was stated, if the witnesses to the abduction and witnesses to the sale of a person were rendered conspiring witnesses, they are made edim zoyim. Chizkiah says the typical sentence of conspiring witnesses is not implemented; they are not executed. Rabbi Yochanan says they are executed. Chizkiah Damar Rabbi Akiva Damar Davar V'lo Chatzi Davar. Rabbi Yochanan Damar Kerabanan Damri Davar V'afilu Chatzi Davar. The Gemara elaborates, it's Chizkiah who said, in his statement in accordance with the opinions of Rabbi Akiva, who said that one derives from the verse, on the basis of two witnesses shall a matter be established. Deuteronomy 19:15, that the testimony of witnesses is valid only when they attest to an entire matter, but not to half a matter. Since a pair of witnesses provides testimony concerning only half the transgression for which the perpetrator would be liable, in other words, they each testify to only the abduction of the sale, the testimony of each pair is not valid. Therefore, when they are deemed conspiring witnesses, they are not executed. Rabbi Yochanan says, the statement in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis who said that one derives from the verse that the testimony is valid when they testify with regard to an entire matter, and even when they testify with regard to a half a matter, since the testimony of the two pairs of witnesses together constitutes a complete testimony. If they are rendered conspiring witnesses, they are executed. The Gemara notes, and Chizkiah concedes, with regard to the final witnesses of the stubborn and rebellious son who were rendered conspiring witnesses, that they are executed. The stubborn and rebellious son is executed only if witnesses testified that he engaged in gluttonous and drunken conduct and he was flogged, and then a pair of witnesses testifies that he again engaged in gluttonous and drunken conduct. His death sentence is based solely on the testimony of the second pair, as the first witnesses could say, or they could say, continue that 86b, lehal koso banu vehani achrini kule davar ka avdi le. It is in order to flog him, not to execute him, that we came to court. And these other witnesses, through their testimony, are ones who did this to him, meaning they're responsible for the entire matter of his execution and are therefore liable to be executed for giving conspiring testimony.